Find your favorite podcaster who joined the psychological operation to convince you Mitch was lying about having been at Fort Huachuca on September 9th, because I've just received the incident report. Remember, Mitch said he was at first taken outside by Captain Neff and questioned for a long time. After a long while, they made a decision to call the military police and report him as a possible bomb threat. As Mitch maintained, at that stage, there is, of course, a paper trail. And here we have it. Bomb dogs were called at 11:17 a.m. Everyone that came out so vociferously to say that Candace needs to be locked in an insane asylum because she's making up this meeting and Mitch was never there. And then they started doing character assassination against Mitch. I had it in the last story. There's like all these people who are going out and saying, well, Mitch did this thing 20 years ago. Mitch did this 30 years ago. So he's a bad guy. So you can't trust him. Oh, so because Mitch allegedly did something bad 20 years ago, I shouldn't trust him, even though we have the military police report that he was there and this actually did happen. We talked about how Alex Jones provided this ironclad alibi for Brian Harpool and the Fort Huachuca meeting. There's no way he could have been there because he has these like random screenshots of tickets of planes that he was allegedly on, even if he was on those planes, he still could have been at the Fort Huachuca meeting, right? So that was debunked. We also have the debunking of Congressman Mark Modi's jet, which flew to Fort Huachuca, turned off its transponder to hide landing before the meeting took place. I'm not going to sit here. Okay, this post is making the accusation that the meeting was for a specific purpose. I'm not going to make that accusation without definitive proof. But I will say I am increasingly...
Left wing, right wing, both ran by the beak. Look at the beaks on those chosen ones.
Listen, it's all a warmongering Epstein elite in Washington, D.C. It's as simple as that. I will say I'm increasingly beginning to believe that Candace Owens is actually dead on, right over the target, given how much people are freaking out, saying she needs to be involuntarily medicated, locked up in an insane asylum. Alex Jones is free. Everyone's freaking out. But it is true that this did happen. Undeniable flight data proves Rep. Mark Modi's aircraft, callsign SAM-702, executed a covert approach to Fort Huachuca on September 8th, departed Andrews Air Force Base, D.C. on September 7th, routed through Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado Springs, landed Davison Monthan Air Force Base, Tucson, Arizona on September 8th, then took off directly toward Sierra Vista Municipal Airport, only 3 miles from Fort Huachuca. Transponder deliberately shut off 20 miles out, vanishing from radar to avoid tracking the final landing. Okay, so now we have two of the supposed ironclad alibis with the Fort Huachuca story that have been debunked, right? Oh, it's Candace doubling down. No. She's doubling down because the stories you guys are putting out are just a bunch of bullshit, to be quite honest with you. Candace Owens has now released a Fort Huachuca military police incident report from September 9th, proving her theory that a high-level meeting did take place. And as we know, her source on record that appeared on her show was there. Okay? So let's take a look at this. Find your favorite podcaster who joined the psychological operation to convince you Mitch was lying about having been at Fort Huachuca on September 9th, because I've just received the incident report. Remember, Mitch said he was at first taken outside by Captain Neff and questioned for a long time. After a long while, they made a decision to call the military police and report him as a possible bomb threat. As Mitch maintained, at that stage, there is, of course, a paper trail. And here we have it. Bomb dogs were called at 11:17 a.m. I always believe Mitch's story of what happened on that morning because he supplied overwhelming evidence with metadata and timestamps. Now we have the incident report. What we cannot confirm as of yet is his memory of who he is convinced he saw coming out of that early morning meeting. We continue to focus our investigation on those points and remain open to the possibility that the people he believed he saw may have been misidentified. But this morning meeting is clearly important. They are sending out everyone to try and delegitimize it. Now, this is really... So, yeah, you can see here they sent out canine dogs. They had the whole bomb threat thing. The funniest thing about the ongoing investigation into what took place with Kirk and with Fort Huachuca is that each and every time people keep saying like, oh, you know, People keep saying like, oh, Candace, why don't you just give us everything you got? Why don't you just reveal all of the facts? Why don't you just give us? Well, I mean, it's actually pretty simple, because by leaking the information and deliberately going through the information bit by bit, not only can more things be confirmed in the process, and you can have multiple confirmations of a given story over extended periods of time. Not only that, but you get to see how people react. And when people in the know start to come up with all these insane alibis and say, oh, I wasn't there, my plane wasn't there, Mitch wasn't there, the meeting never happened, a bomb threat wasn't called, this is all made up, Candace is losing her mind. You give people time to show their true colors. You give people time to lie. You give people time to expose themselves as frauds. So actually, I think she's doing a phenomenal job, right? Because if you were like a police investigator, homicide investigator, and you believed that the person that you were interviewing was guilty of murdering their wife, right? And you actually knew where they were at a specific time, 3 hours before the alleged murder took place, where they were involved allegedly, you'd say, hey, where were you 3 hours before we believe that your wife was murdered? And if the guy sitting across from you that you're interviewing says something that you know not to be true, well, they've outed themselves, that you know that they're lying, okay? And they're doing it on purpose to hide something. Case in point, we're now seeing everyone who lied about the Fort Huachuca meeting. Maybe they're not lying about the fact that certain people weren't there. Maybe they really do believe that. Maybe they do believe that this person or that person weren't there. Maybe they have proof of that. I don't know. But everyone that came out so vociferously to say that Candace needs to be locked in an insane asylum because she's making up this meeting and Mitch was never there. And then they started doing character assassination against Mitch. I had it in the last story. There's like all these people who are going out and saying, well, Mitch did this thing 20 years ago. Mitch did this 30 years ago. So he's a bad guy. So you can't trust him. Oh, so because Mitch allegedly did something bad 20 years ago, I shouldn't trust him, even though we have the military police report that he was there and this actually did happen? You're telling me that I'm not supposed to believe this guy, but then it turns out he was actually there. It turns out a bomb threat was called in. It turns out he was interviewed by some high-ranking individual at Fort Huachuca, and all of this happened. But I'm not supposed to believe him. But I am supposed to believe the people that lied for the past, going on 3 years about the genocide in Gaza. I'm supposed to believe that suddenly these people have arrived at some new moral foundation, some new moral character, that they're done with the lies. They're done with protecting the deep state. They're done with protecting Israel. They're done with protecting U.S. intelligence and the military, the U.S. Army. I'm not that stupid. You're not that stupid. We're not going to fall for that. It's quite simple. These people all lied about COVID. They lied about Ukraine. On February of 2024, they were like putting Zelensky in the header of their Twitter bios. They're like, Zelensky's such a hero. If only I could thank him in person for his honor, sacrifice, and defending democracy and Western values. And then, the settings in their CIA hardware and their brain got updated, and they started to do that for Netanyahu. But now suddenly I'm supposed to believe that they have some new moral foundation. They've seen the light of day, and we all have to trust them. No, not going to happen. I'll follow the facts, and the facts show us that there was something that happened that day, September 9th, the day before Charlie was unalived, at Fort Huachuca. Mitch was there. They freaked out that he was there. They called in a bomb threat, and they interviewed him for hours. They had this intervention with him. A Modi's plane, whatever, the congressman's plane, that story ended up to be a bunch of bullshit that they put out. Brian Harple's story is not an ironclad alibi. I'm not saying he was there. I'm just saying the proof that he tried to show us does not actually show us anything, even though he claimed it did. I'm beginning to think that the people who are defending Israel for the past 3 years, they may be wrong again. They may be lying once more. Who would have thought? Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.